Hello, and a very warm welcome to Cultural Communication Confidence with me, Victoria Reynoldson, and a very warm welcome to episode 150. That's right, this is the 150th episode. Amazing to think how many we've created over the last 3 years. And today is part of a mini series celebrating this milestone, celebrating 3 years of the podcast. And I just want to start with a little thank you to everybody who listens. I very much appreciate all your support over the years. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. And I very much appreciate every single one of you who has listened to any of my episodes over time. And as part of the celebrations, I have a gift for you, a free resource on global leader communication, which I would love to share with you. So if you'd like to get hold of your gift, then all you have to do is head over to LinkedIn and message me on my personal profile, Victoria Reynoldson, and I'll share that gift with you. But coming to today's topic in this 150th episode, it is a celebration, but I also wanted to bring a topic that has been top of mind for me a little while. And I have hesitated whether to do a podcast all about this. But I think it is incredibly important, particularly as it's a topic that's been coming up a lot recently in my conversations with clients. And that's all around how to feel in control when you don't. And I understand that there are many things happening in the world right now. At the time of this recording, September 2025, there is a lot of conflict in many regions of the world. There's a lot happening geopolitically. And of course, on the work front, many people are experiencing rapid change, restructures, and redundancy situations or risks to their job. And I get what a worrying and anxious time it is for many people. And many of the clients I'm helping are facing these kinds of personal and professional challenges. And I know how hard that can be. I know myself because in my previous marketing career, faced redundancy situations and that uncertainty and fear that goes with that. In running my own business over the last 10 years, equally, I have faced many ups and downs. And certainly, as if you're a business owner as well, you'll probably recognize this as well. There are so many challenges along the way, and some of them really quite serious, quite difficult to move forward on, to continue to run a business through and lead a business through. So I want to start by acknowledging this. And I wanted to tackle this more deeper, more tough situation and question today by really giving some perspectives, some ideas and reframes that I hope that if you're experiencing this, that you will find helpful. And even if you're not experiencing it personally, it probably is the case that you know somebody who is. Somebody like a family member, a loved one, a friend who is facing a very tough time right now emotionally and is struggling to move forward. So, this episode is really focused on how do we move forward in these times as a leader when we feel out of control. And I'm going to focus it around the context, just to make this a bit easier, around the context of professional change and particularly around situations like restructures, layoffs, and redundancies. So let's start with this. And the first point that I want to share is that control, this idea of controlling a situation, unfortunately, is an illusion. It just doesn't exist. So the problem is that like like myself, like many leaders, you want to be in control. You want to feel like you can take an action, create a result, and therefore create the solution. But the reality is, these are complex situations often. There are lots of moving parts, there are lots of people involved, and it may be completely out of your decision making power and out of your influence to get to the answer, to get to the answer you want, maybe. I should reframe that. So, really, this is about not controlling, but instead thinking about how do you manage yourself through this? How do you respond to the situation? What are the actions you can take to start moving forward and create a sense of momentum, even if you can't get to the answer? And this is what we're focusing on in this episode. Now, managing yourself is an idea that I've just talked about, and I want to dwell here a moment because I know this for myself. I've seen it with my own professional contexts as well as with friends and family as well. There are many complex emotions that go through with change, particularly change where we experience it negatively, where we feel threatened, feel fear, anxiety about our job situation and the security of it. And it is incredibly important to be able to express those emotions, to process them, to be able to feel like you can share them with people that you trust. And those emotions, if we don't express them, sometimes get really stuck, and that's not helpful to us either. The only thing that I want to point to, though, in this episode is that staying in the zone of those negative emotions can really pull us down. And I've seen this particularly with somebody in my own family, where the emotions led to a real negative confidence spiral, which really sucked them down, really meant that they found it very difficult to move forward, found it very difficult to lift their eyes up to the horizon and see what could be next. So, yes, we need to process the emotions, but at some point, we also need to move into the next stage. And that comes with understanding that we need to change our narrative sometimes, change what we are saying to ourselves and what we're talking about with other people, moving from the frustrations to acceptance, moving from the frustrations to seeing what might be an opportunity in this situation. And that's not to downplay the seriousness of the situation or the emotions felt, but it is important at some point that there is that transition so that you can start to feel that there is action that you can take, that you can start moving forward. And this is particularly important if this has an impact on those around you, if you're a leader of people who are also going through that change, if your family and loved ones and friends are also impacted by your change in job situation. So this is really important part of strategies that I'm now going to share, really concrete strategies that I want to give you ideas about what you can actually do, the action you can take so you can start moving forward. The first one is something I've already touched on. It's about acceptance rather than resistance. What keeps people stuck is resisting the change, feeling like that they are still processing it, but they are fighting it. And that takes energy, it takes emotions, and it's an incredibly draining place to be. If the situation is out of your control, if you don't have influence on it and others are making the decisions, then resisting it can be very difficult. It can lead to a place of being very stuck and not being able to find the solutions to move forward. So I believe that acceptance at the right point is important, that we need to move from resisting it to accepting it's happening and then thinking what next. The next area I want to talk about is your relationship to time. I know it myself when I've been in the situation of redundancy that it can feel like time is slowing down. You feel impatient to resolve the situation, to know what comes next, to understand how this is actually going to impact you, or to know that there is going to be a positive outcome at the end. The reality is that this time, relationship to time, is really tricky in this moment. So, one exercise I sometimes do with clients is get them to think about zooming out 6 months from now, or if that's easier for you, you can even go 12 months, and to think about what might be happening in your life at that moment. What could the alternatives for the positive outcomes look like? And then from that place to look back to the current moment and to think about what you would say to yourself in the current moment to reassure you, to give you advice, to give you positive encouragement to keep going. And that exercise can be really useful in this moment when you're starting to get impatient and that sense of time dragging. The next area is what you notice. And I also, this is connected to narrative and self narrative, but I also really strongly believe that even in the most negative of situations, there can be micro positive moments, moments in your day where something does go right or something positive happens, even if it is as simple as the sun is shining today. And I notice that. Even if it's as simple as I managed to have one good conversation with a friend today. So I want you to notice this, to notice the small things that are going well, the small wins, or even be thankful for them, sometimes known as gratitude practice, but just to capture that on a daily basis. Because if you have been in the zone of that negative energy and emotion, the negative confidence spiral, the way to shift yourself out of that can be to start noticing the positive things that are happening. From what you notice, I want to talk about your routines. Now, I'm not somebody who is a nutritionist, I'm certainly not a sleep expert, but what I do know is that your physical foundations are really important when it comes to your resilience and feeling that you can manage yourself through really tough times. I'm going to borrow something from a coach, Adele Martin, who once shared with me this particular way, this framework of thinking about physical foundations, which is snooze, move, and food. So, not quite a rhyme, but snooze, move, and food. Snooze referring to getting enough sleep, and obviously we can't guarantee sleep, but we can try and create the conditions that mean that we get the best sleep we can. The move, getting outside, getting enough steps in the day, and food, making sure that you've eaten enough, that you've had some water today, that you're feeling full. These elements have been really critical to me. I learned that from Adele, and they've been very critical to me at challenging moments in my life. And I want to share that with you here today because, again, when you're going through really tough times, your physical foundations need to be solid because that can be also impacting your emotional side, it can be impacting how you're showing up and the energy that you're sharing with others. So get your physical foundations right, get your routines in place. Next is your environment. Really think about where you're working. Now, you may not have a choice. You may need to work full time from home, or maybe the opposite. Maybe you're expected to be at your workplace full time despite all the changes. But if you are in a space where you're feeling stuck and negative emotions and energy, then I highly recommend a shift in your environment. It can make a big difference to how you're feeling and just change your perspective, even for a short while. So, can you work from a different place within the office? Is there a different floor or a different zone you can go and work from? If you're working from home, can you go to a co working space or go to a cafe or somewhere different just to shift a little bit how you're feeling and thinking? Environment matters. Again, it shapes how we feel. And so this can be important in this moment. I talk quite a lot in self leadership about the power of connecting and sharing. And I know myself that sometimes in tough times, the temptation is to hide away, to retreat, to feel like that you need to work things through by yourself or with only one or two people. But the reality is, sometimes what you need more than anything else is to stay plugged into other people, to be around people, to feel energized by positive people. And that's where leaning into networks or leaning into meeting people can be really helpful to you, whether that is virtual or in person live. So, really consider this, even if you're in that moment where you don't really feel like talking to anybody. Think about who would really help you to lift your mood, who would really help you to move forward, and perhaps even give you some ideas, some inspirations about what next. Finally, connected with that, and this is the last part of my strategies to help you through and move forward, is this idea of knowing your resilience factors and tapping into them. So really think about what it is that you need in your day to day to help you feel at your best. You might take the opportunity to really think about how you might learn something new, how you might take the opportunity for growth and development, even in going through a redundancy situation. You might choose to take a course or a new program. You might even think about how your sport and exercise fits in and either continue, restart, or even start a new type of sport to help you to feel resilient through this moment. Know what works for you, know what keeps you feeling strong and resilient through these times, and really lean into them. So, I've shared there with you a number of different strategies and ideas that you can use to help move yourself forward. Not to feel in control, because as we said, that's an illusion, but more to help you accept and to start taking those actions that will start to help move the momentum, move you forward towards the future rather than getting stuck in the present. I also want to really acknowledge at this moment there'll be lots of things outside of your control, and that might include things like conflict, geopolitical situations, organizational changes, and really importantly, the emotions and the behaviors of others. So, if others are also impacted in your workspace, you may find that people are reacting in different ways, some more positively and clearly some more negatively as they deal with their own emotions around this. I clearly endorse that as a leader, you need to be there for your people. You need to be supportive, you need to listen, and at the same time, you need to make sure that their energy, their emotions belongs to them and that doesn't spill over into your own world. So do what you need to do to be supportive, but also I call it put up your force field. Make sure those emotions are not your emotions, that you don't carry them around with you as well. So this has been quite a deep podcast today, a deep episode where we've really explored a very tough topic, which I know may be impacting you individually as you listen today. I appreciate there's quite a lot here, and equally, this is a topic that requires much more than just a 20-minute podcast episode. So, I'm going to finish with some reflection questions, but also I want you to know that you may be going through things that are tough to talk about with people who know you well. So, I'm here for you. If you want to discuss anything that's come up for you from today's podcast episode, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Victoria Reynoldson is my personal profile, and I'd be really happy to talk it through with you, what you're facing right now. So the questions really are: where do you feel out of control right now? How do you move from resistance to the situation to acceptance? And which of the action strategies can you put into place? Which of these are going to work best for you to help move you forward as a leader? Thank you so much for listening to today. This episode has been number 150, part of celebrating this momentous number, but also 3 years of the podcast as well, with the third birthday a couple of episodes ago. I just want to say again, thank you so much for listening. I love creating these podcasts. I love the conversations we have afterwards. So I would love to hear from you. What do you want to hear from me next? What topics are top of mind for you? What do you enjoy about these podcasts? What do you find valuable? And if you feel very generous, I'd really appreciate it if you would head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review there. That would make a big difference to this podcast and means that we can get more people around the world listening. Finally, don't forget there is the gift to go with the series of celebrating 3 years of the podcast and 150 episodes. If you want to get hold of that gift, a free resource for you on leadership communication, then just head over to LinkedIn, Victoria Reynoldson, my personal profile, and message me, and I'll send it right back to you. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Really enjoyed having you here for the show today, and look forward to seeing you next time on Cultural Communication Confidence.